Welcome everyone, I'm Joshino, and today we're going to be breaking down the Steel Forged patch for Paladins, which will be coming very soon, and hopefully we can show off all of the new features on the public test server as soon as it goes live in a live stream. However, today I'm going to be breaking down pretty much everything that was showed off on the dev stream just moments ago, and trying to talk about whether it's good, bad, and basically showing off what is coming. Anyway, let's dive into it straight off the bat with the biggest part of new content, and that is the new siege map, Bazaar, which used to be one of the old test siege maps too. So when we're going through this is along the same themes as Shattered Desert. There's lots of foxes and moons, and a lot of the things that have come from that Shattered Desert map. However, in a much more daytime and almost a livable space where we're almost in just a city area of a map. Obviously, we're sort of just stuck in the Bazaar zone, but actually you can see around in the skybox that there's sort of like high temple-y sort of buildings going around it, and it really does look like an almost Far Eastern fantasy version of that city. It kind of reminds me of Belbad in Magi if you've ever watched that anime. So again, this is sort of lore-wise where the people who worshipped at the Shattered Desert map actually live and sort of go about their normal lives, and we're sort of in that city. There's some really epic water features here. So in the spawn room, there is a whole huge water feature that's almost moon-shaped that you can walk around in, and it just has loads of little faucets of just little water features and little fountains sprinkling out into a larger pool, and damn does it look beautiful. And also it seems that all of those water features do carry on throughout the map, as there's little facets and just sort of like little water features dotted around everywhere too. Plus this seems to be the most detailed map so far, with flowers and just loads of little bits everywhere, and I love the colour of this map, and especially how bright it is. I think it looks really crispy, and unlike the Shattered Desert, which came out a bit, I think both of the versions of Shattered Desert are a bit murky, not murky, but not murky's not the right word, but a little bit dark. So I'm actually quite happy with how this map looks. There's also a huge statue of a moon deity. I mean, is there any spicy speculation here on the new champion? Well, maybe, but that's a bit too spicy for this video. Design-wise, it's quite interesting, as the siege point has low walls that give little cover to the high zones above it. So either side, there's kind of a balcony where there's sort of chest-height cover where both teams are probably going to be poking each other, trying to get the damage off, trying to get a pick, and then one team taking that point and trying to defend the point and move forward onto the enemy's balcony. Which is actually quite an interesting design, how wide these balconies are and how much cover there is kind of on either side. I'm curious how the point zone will work out. It'll be very hard, I think, to stand on as like an Anara barrack, just standing there taking all the damage as it sort of rains upon you, seeing as you're quite vulnerable in there. But then again, we do have something like that in Serpent Beach a little bit, just with more cover on either side. The other big interesting thing in the first for a Paladins map is that this map has flank routes that only one team can access. So if you're attacking, you can only access that flank route via a gate. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that enemies can't access it. You can still jump over it, fly over it, so any sort of champion with a vertical ability can get over those walls. Plus, if the enemy goes through slowly and you could use like a movement ability, even like a shell spin from a Makoa, you could probably get through with them as they try and escape. Though it does add some sort of interesting depth as to where enemies might come from, and you have to sort of watch without being able to push too far to the enemy's spawn room and spawn camp them. So it might make it slightly harder to knock people off their horses and sort of like defending on that siege point part of the map. All in all, I think this map looks beautiful. Although I did think Shattered Desert in its themes looked beautiful, I hope that it plays well. I can't remember too much of it from the test maps, although I am looking forward to this one. Be sure to let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section below on the new map coming, and yeah, let's move on. There is also a new battle pass coming. This is the Steel Forged battle pass. The devs have said they've reduced the amount of experience points required for the battle pass from the Battle Bite battle pass, as they thought it was too big before, and there's also more skins. However, half of them are recolors of the main skins in there. So there's a new frame coming. It kind of looks a bit like a castle, fantasy castle, coming with a little bit of a forged little bit on the sides. It's kind of cool. And also on the instant unlock is the Steel Forged Androxus skin. This is actually based off of the Dragon Knight Androxus concept that was teased ages ago, but actually I think it's a massive improvement on it. The gold, black, and red colors of this epicness are even more epic in the splash art. Wow, I don't know who they've got doing the splash art now, but these are incredible. They're knocking it out of the park. However, it does look good in game 2. The Androxus arm is a red dragon's arm, like an actual dragon's arm. The weapon has a dragon with glowing eyes in the back. It's kind of like the American skin where you've got that eagle doing the reps with the dumbbells. The weapon itself looks pretty cool with the teeth being white. It almost looks like an actual dragon is your pistol, you're firing a dragon off. The effects too are pretty epic. They almost look like black hole, slightly cosmic themed with a touch of red like fire within that. The rest of the armor is a black and gold plate mail and he looks just badass. Less edgy, more just straight up medieval badass. The weapon sounds like firing steel bolts and it's more of a cannon than a pistol. Plus he has a bit of a gruff knightly accent in the voice pack. The ultimate's pretty cool as well as there's spinning runes around the weapon and it does fire off this evil sort of cosmic energy too. I think this one's definitely something to look out for. Next up is the steel forged barrack. Again, splash art is insane. It looks like it's come right out of a Warhammer Codex for dwarves and yes, I do love it. He just looks like a heavily armored dwarf in the fantasy world. He also has this sort of green cape going on in the background. I think he could just really fit into any sort of fantasy genre as this sort of like heavily armored sort of senior dwarf in the realm. I also like his dragon helmet, looks pretty epic on the top. The weapon has dragons on it and lots of chunky metal parts and just generally looks pretty beastly. Plus it has a blue spinning crystal on it, a bit like the Lian's blue spinning crystal. The VFX all has runes on it and within the Trail of the Rocket Boots, the barricade, the ultimate, and also once you summon your turret it sort of spins around them. He generally seems pretty badass. We were also shown a recolor of the skin, although it was only on the splash art, and it's basically just a black version of this sort of more evil dwarf type thing. Anyway, moving on to the steel forged Imani. The armor is almost an emerald dragon scaled armor. Her hair is shorter and wider, plus she has a big horned helmet which does look very funky and rather epic, a bit more Viking-esque. This was also based on an early version of the Imani concept art, and I actually think it looks rather good. The fire makes the armor look darker and also has this sort of red shimmer over the body armor, and the eyes almost a steelier color with a blue shimmer. The horns also change color to the red and the blue, which look rather epic. Plus the VFX on the abilities don't look too different, though maybe darker than the original skin and a little bit less cartoony, if I have to describe it. The dragon is a big green dragon. Not much else to say and has sort of normal fire and such. Plus with the splash art they showed off a recolor which is basically red scales and a red armored version of this Imani with a red dragon. It's pretty cool that both the dragon and the Imani get a skin almost with a skin pack from them. Next up is the steel forged Maldamba. The snake has a pipe and glasses. I repeat that, a pipe and glasses, plus a beard. And a hat. So the snake has its own character this time and also speaks with the voice pack. And it's kind of like a snake Merlin to the knight that Maldamba is kind of King Arthur, I guess. The pipe on the snake also bubbles. Plus the snake also has a cape, which I didn't even mention. The beard is also rather epic, looks a bit like Merlin's beard. So I think pretty much we are now done with Paladins. We've reached a pinnacle. The Maldamba himself is almost like a battle mage. He has sort of cloth and heavy plate mail, which could look like a heavily armored knight too, and with almost a jester style head prongs with the armor. I also think this one is epic on the scale of yes, okay, that's alright, to damn, that's epic. Plus there's also a recolor that's white, but we only get to see it in the splash art, so we don't really know what it looks like comparatively. They did also show off the Anvil Death Stamp when you kill somebody, which kind of works best with the new barrack skin in my opinion. The Dragon Banner spray that also has music and comes in sort of a blue and a red version. It brings a banner in front of you and then plays like a horn. Plus a animated barrack in a barrel emote. That was all that was shown off for the Battle Pass coming. Be sure to let me know what you think about that in the comment section below. Next up are the skins. There is Golden Maldamba, shiny gold and black like the others so far. However, next up, Golden Androxus. Wow! This looks so good, with a slight touch of the gold as the intricate details on the armor, with the black really pops. Like, it's just like the contrast between those little bits of gold and that really dark black looks incredible. 10 out of 10, we need this immediately. There's also some content here coming on June 5th, and this came out of the spicy speculations in the data mining as Bunny Ceres. However, it has been titled officially as Cottontail Ceres. I don't know what to say on this skin. Her weapon is just a rabbit with bubbles around it, with a big bow. It fires big bubbles with a magical pop sound, and she's a bunny girl. I don't want to say here, she's like a bunny girl that you'd see in an anime, and like maybe advertising something. I don't know, just a bunny girl. When she heals, also she's got a little rabbit on her hand with fingerless gloves, and it makes a little squeak every time you heal somebody, and the lights on it light up green, whereas when you're firing, they light up purple. The ult also is just a bunny that gets bigger and creates its own gravitational pull, dragging everybody into the center. Anyway, that is it for all the content and skins coming in the next patch. So let's talk about the bugs and also the balancing. So some quality of life things coming to the game. First of all, a big thing is a colorblind mode coming with a few versions, and I'm fairly sure these are all just different color corrections for different types of colorblindness. So they didn't go into huge detail, but it's definitely something that we can check out in the public test server. Also, Switch voice chat is being added. It will also have crossplay, so all consoles and PC, if crossplay is enabled, will be able to chat with each other. Perhaps console folks are more chatty than PC players, seeing as it's pretty quiet on the computer front. To be honest though, I do have to mute my chat anyway from streaming, and a lot of the time in ranked it can get a bit derpy, with people often just making random noises if I do still have the voice chat on. Another big quality of life thing is all of the charge abilities in the game have been reworked. So the idea is that there's a fix to the server correction. So sometimes where the server and client disagreed with where you had actually charged to, it either dragged you back slightly or made you stutter or something along those lines, like dragging you out of where you actually thought you were going. So hopefully this will fix quite a few of the charges, and also can't charge. We're going to talk about it in the detail fixes in a moment. There's lots of descriptions in languages with incorrect details which have been fixed. Plus there's an issue with gamepad where mute was being shown instead of unmute, which they fixed. Emotes interrupting with inputs being abused. Plus Shattered Desert, people being able to stand where they shouldn't, and some walls you could see through has also been fixed. Champion specific fixes have come through, so Androxus sometimes got locked out of their ult if they were dashing into the air, which should now be fixed. Barrack now, is actually more of a quality of life thing, has a shield crack visual on all of their shields. If you were watching the Steel Forge Barrack, you can go back again, it'll be on there, you can see the crack in the shield. Drogo's Dragon Punch was sometimes not replayed correctly in kill cam, so you look like they're air running and bumping into you. Now it actually looked like the cool punch. Imani, if the Imani ults and the Cassie ults, the Imani would get a wall hack all of the game. Now that has been fixed, which is a huge fix, I guess. There we go. Also, if Imani had a feature, if you had auto purchase enabled, the dragon could also auto purchase items, which sounds ridiculous. It does sound ridiculous. Although I wonder if they could make it so you could buy items for the dragon. Could be an interesting feature. Also Khan, Commander's Grab client fixed, like I mentioned before with the charges. So sometimes when you hit somebody, either you did or didn't, and you basically did the opposite of what you thought you were doing. So you either hit somebody, but then it looked like you missed, and then they might be thrown after the animation, or you'd think you'd hit somebody, but you missed and you just want to be locked out and derp around. So hope that's a massive fix, to be honest. And Khan has been strong for a long time, and I think it's going to be strong going forwards, and that's just going to help him out. Inara, so Summit, Resilience actually affected her self knockback card, which actually is kind of ridiculous. So maybe we'll see some jumpy Inaras again, whereas it's now been fixed. Moji was also able to eat her victims whilst polymorphed, which has now been fixed, but I don't know whether that needed to actually fix. It sounds rather ridiculous. Anyway, Strix Flashbang, so this is such a big one. If you had DirectX 11 enabled and anti-aliasing, basically completely black out your screen after the initial flashbang. So it was like a huge deal to be ulted by a Strix. I actually was playing on stream a little while ago and I got ulted by a Strix and I couldn't see for a few seconds and that actually killed me. So that's a massive fix. Victor had issues with his iron sight lining up, which is now fixed. Probably going to see more people playing Victor at the moment. Plus Sprint also not playing in the kill cam, looking like he's just floating across the ground. And finally, being stunned whilst you were throwing a grenade could cause you to insta blow up that grenade, which sounds like a good thing. Also, Ying's mirror permanently being open was an issue, but has now been fixed. That's it for the fixes. All good stuff in my opinion. Anyway, moving on, there's a new rank split before we go into the balance changes. So the new rank Warg is just a Ash avatar, but I think you can still get the old Grok, Chieftain Grok skin. They've also completely reworked Stealth. Stealth will now be universalized with some core mechanics, so stealth can no longer be broken by crowd control or damage, though damage numbers now show and pop up whenever you hit a stealth target, which is kind of a rework. It's kind of a buff, kind of a nerf because they're going to see those damage numbers. We'll just see. I mean, at the end of the day, Illuminate still counters out the invisible champions, so I don't know how much it'll be valuable. Kind of the bane of Charlene at the moment, who still can be viable, but the Sky, I don't see it happening. Anyway, let's get on to the balancing. Onto the first champion, Barak. So actually, a lot of the cards are being brought into his base kit slightly, and then the cards are being lowered in the actual deck, which means that the Barak will probably be a bit more versatile, as the base barricade is going from 4 seconds to 5 seconds in duration, the cooldown is going from 15 to 12 seconds, and Rocket Boots is going from 14 to 12 seconds. Plus also a little bit of a buff is the ultimate dome shield does more damage, so from 400 to 600 a second damage. That's actually quite a big increase. Now it's probably not likely that people will actually want to stand around that turret. They've also made the main weapon Fire more comfortable, as it has a tighter fire pattern and also reduced damage fall off, so it'll work a bit more like the Tinkering weapon base while still being a shotgun. However, all of the cards that relate to the cooldown reduction of the shield and of the rocket boots have been nerfed, and actually the rocket boosts works out, if you had the card max, you'd be losing out on a second cooldown of the rocket boots. Plus they've nerfed the card Bowling Ball to give a reduced shield duration of 4 seconds to 3 seconds. So whilst you've got a bit more survivability in your barricade, and you don't have to put points into cards to get the lower cooldown on rocket boots and also the barricade, you are losing out on the actual sheer effectiveness of that bowling ball. Although, I mean, a lot of the time it probably would be knocked off straight away and just be an extra health pool, but it is a little bit of a nerf. It'll be interesting to see how Barak works out from this point on. I'm very excited to see how the weapon works, but I am a little bit skeptical about these changes, as the Barak was in a relatively good place, apart from not having the versatility of the loadouts they could pick up in terms of with the talent cards, with the main weapon being an issue. Next up, Buck has straight up just got an extra shot in their shotgun, so the ammo's gone from 4 to 5. Buck has been underperforming for a little while, and I think this is just a little touch to him, but will it make him meta? Probably not. Next up is Furia. So the talent card Cherish now increases the range of Kindle Sword by 300%. This was definitely needed to make it viable, and I think is going to do quite a lot of work for that Furia. Next up with the Amani, they're trying to push you to actually Elemental Shift. My thing is that the Ice Fire, and if it does enough damage at range that you can poke with it, and even with an 8-second cooldown, so it's going from 10 to 8 seconds base, it's still a little while that you're waiting for that shift to come back up again. However, the bigger changes here are in the Frost Bomb. So the projectile speed has gone from 60 to 40 units. They didn't say exactly what it was, I'm guessing per second, although it wasn't listed on the dev talk. Plus, the route no longer has its length modifiable by cards. The card Permafrost now increases its projectile speed by 12% at each level. So actually, you can make the projectile faster than it was before, although I don't necessarily think this will be picked up. We'll just see. It might be picked up with like level 2 instead of some older of the other cards. But yeah, Amani has been performing very well this patch with the Frost mode, with Splitting Ice, and I don't see that necessarily changing without more tweaks, not just the Elemental Shift cooldown being lowered. Lian has had some pretty hard nerfs here actually. So Heraldry, this is the card that gives you presence back, basically off cooldown if you hit enemies and depending on how many enemies you hit as well. So the scaling has gone from 1.5 seconds to 1 second at each level. That is massive. That's huge. It's another 2.5 seconds where the Lian can be dueled out by a variety of champions that have the burst to do so in that time. I think it'll be much easier to sort of poke her out and to be aggressive against the Lian. And I understand that she is performing very well at the moment, and maybe it's slightly overpowered, but I'm interested to see how this works without touching the rest of her kit, as this is quite a big deal. The next one as well, I'm not sure about this one as much, but Shining Topaz has gone from 0.5 seconds to 0.2 at each level, which is a huge drop. This is the card which would reduce the cooldown of presence every time you hit somebody with Valor. I do think Valor is actually sometimes harder to hit than you think, seeing as you can get it clipped on any sort of like staircase or a little bit of cover that's sort of knee height, and then it just doesn't go off. However, I do see where they're going with this, but again, the Lian's going to be more vulnerable for longer and not have that bursty damage, and not going to be necessarily the crazy Lian we see now. Finally, Victor has had a cardio change. This is a talent card that heals you whilst you're running around in your sprint, and it's gone from 250 health per second to 400 health per second, which early game is going to be rather insane and make you quite unkillable when you're running around. Although I still don't know whether this will be meta. It means that you're escaping and you're just sort of derping around, although it could work in terms of repositioning, healing yourself, getting kills with, say, a Genos, who might be buffing up all your allies' damage, but not necessarily being able to heal you all too much. Although you probably would want more aggressive damages and more aggressive tanks, but we will see how this goes. What do you all think about all of the balancing changes? Be sure to let me know in the comment section below. And that is all of the patch for Steel Forged, and some great stuff coming in my opinion, especially that new Speed Siege map. And the Battle Pass actually looks rather epic. I much prefer this Battle Pass to the past few patches Battle Passes, and I'm kind of glad we've got away from sort of the sci-fi route into sort of more of a fantasy realm, with all of these skins being really high fantasy, which I think is rather epic. I know I've said epic a lot here. Has anybody got an epic counter? Be sure to let me know in the comment section below. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe for all my content, and we will be getting some more videos out very shortly. See you next time, folks. Joshino.